This is a highly detailed perfectionist guide on Muscovy, where I try to maximize my income. My goal, get to at least 100 monthly income by 1500, a pretty sweet target according to you. Before we start, let me lay out some rules. First, no bankruptcy building. I didn't take any loans besides the 1% ones to build buildings. Yes, it can provide a ton of extra income, but you wouldn't do such things in your regular playthrough. No saves coming for beta RNG.
Oops.
I can only go back to 1444. I have to be up to date on ideas and text. I can't just spend all the PowerPoints on deving and keep a deep tech on 5, for example. No crazy expansion, not really a rule, just a skill issue. Played EU4 a bunch, but haven't played in a while, so I took a slightly slower pace and didn't go crazy. And obviously, it has to be in Iron Man mode. Now that we have some rules, let's get into it. First up, rival anyone you can. I set up Tver as a province of vital interest, expecting two things. One, with this Novgorod has a decent chance of guaranteeing Tver, meaning we can take advantage of that to shorten our truce from 15 to 5 years. 2, Rostov should be making the claim on that province, so that we can actually declare and shorten the truce. Now let's move on to the estates. I only assign PowerPoints from each of the estates to minimize the influence on my country. Do not take anything else and leave the crownlet at 0%, as this is very important for the next step. We, like a good old overlord, shall abuse our vassals for our gain. In the subject interaction, seize provinces from each and every vassal and grant them back. Seize once from Pskov, twice from Perm, and play around with your other vassal. Take the province from Yaroslavl, give it to Rostov, take it again, and return to Yaroslavl, and so on. This way we can get to 10% crownland on day 1 and save ourselves from the curse of autonomy, even with giving out all 3 points, all at the little cost of our vassals slightly disliking us. But what are they gonna do about it? Rebel? Just make sure to royal marry everyone you can within the first month's tick and you'll be totally fine. But now let's continue with our estate setup. Now, you can take pretty much anything you want, but I highly suggest taking yearly patriarch authority, religious diplomats, this will make our vassals extra loyal, extra general shock, and of course the 1% loans. Just make sure to leave some slots there, as you'll need extra governing capacity pretty soon. The only thing you absolutely have to do, take a decision for construction costs and aim for 60% merchant's loyalty to get the free 10% dev cost, of course. This is very important and will scale well with the idea groups. Here's my estate setup if you want to replicate it. Now, start raising a free company and improve relations with Crimea or Nogai, ideally with both. We'll get a third diplomat from the first mission, as I chose the permanent modifiers, and I suggest you do too. Now prepare the armies to invade Novgorod. Give a month or 2 to see if Novgorod guarantees Tver, or at least invites Odoyev to the trade league. If it guarantees Tver, that's perfect, and declare ASAP. If it invites Odoyev, that's fine, as we'll still have a way to shorten the truce. Do not spend too much time waiting for Novgorod to do it, as it might just never happen. Anyways, play a war with Novgorod and only Novgorod as your war goal, as that will make taking it 30% cheaper in the peace deals. That's the kind of thing you need to keep in mind when you're going for the max income. Anyways, the war with the Novgorod should be easy, but just be extra careful to not get engaged in Novgorod or Luki force. I recommend sending one army up north from Perm, as that way the AI won't go around sieging your provinces and causing devastation, which will be very important later on. I recommend always using this strategy whenever you fight an easy enemy. Keep your armies spread out in big-ish stacks so AI doesn't get too annoying and ruin your prosperity. Now back to the Novgorod war. You should conserve your manpower, not overstack everything in one province, and pull out horses from the sieges. Why? They're twice as expensive to reinforce, so you'll just save some money with that. If you can get the peace deal with Novgorod without fighting them at all, that would be perfect. If not, try to get your vassals to attach and fight with that stack. You should also raise the stability sometime during the war, before piecing out to start gaining that sweet prosperity. Now your peace deal with Novgorod should look like this. Take the entire Novgorod and South Karelia estates, that's very important. Everything else is optional. We should get a nice boost of power projection from the war for those sweet power points. Now, why do we have to take the full states? Pretty simple. To concentrate as much dev as possible into Moscow, expand infrastructure, enable the edict, and take the icon for maximum possible development cost reduction. If you had some burger loyalty events, even better, take them. The amount of development you get from concentrating depends on your development cost, so you can get more dev from the same provinces. After the war, immediately move your armies south for our next target, the Great Order. By this point, you should have good enough relations to ally both Nogay and Crimea. They're pretty nice allies as they can tank Uzbek, the most probable ally of Great Order, and just generally distract everyone. Just like last time, you should only declare for Sarai. It's the most valuable province that we need to take anyway to get rid of the Tatar yoke, which we've been diligently paying so far. Declare war, call in your allies with the promise of land, and try to occupy as many provinces as possible. Do not take unnecessary battles and let your allies carry you. Gather your vassals into one place, which is likely gonna be Uzbek. See, unnecessary battle shouldn't have done that. That hurt. Anyways, when you are more or less certain that the war is over, declare on Kazan. Kazan most likely had Nogay and Crimea as its allies, which obviously cannot help it anymore. Again, you should choose Kazan as your war goal for the exact same reasons as before. The war shouldn't be too hard, but just be careful and don't get attacked by both Kazan and Uzbek. For example, you shouldn't be piecing out Great Order until you are done with Kazan or get a call to peace. That's why you should let your allies carry you, as finishing the war too early can be a bad thing. Anyways, your diplomats shouldn't be lazing around all this time. Improve relations with your vassals, create spy network small countries down south like Shirvan. Carry favors with your allies in case you wanna keep them around. I recommend keeping at least one. I chose Nogay here as they can be a nice ally and you still wanna avoid fighting them unnecessarily, which you can do by calling them into useless wars. Now, you should take the full state of Kazan, Perm's course, and obviously the gold mine. Anything else is completely optional. I break the alliances and take 2 to 3 extra provinces, for example. We are gonna be short on admin, and too much overextension this early on is unnecessary. So take your time with conquest and just make sure to keep Kazan's total war score under 100%. Now concentrate development from Kazan into Moscow while we still have the dev cost edict in there. Oops, let's wait a bit. In the meantime, peace out Great Order. If Nogay or Crimea occupied some neighboring provinces, no big deal, just leave them for the next time. If it's not Sarai, and you can still snake towards Kazikmuk or Shirvan, then you should be totally fine. Ideally, take the full state of Astrakhan to also concentrate dev from there, but I couldn't do it here. Now is a good time to talk about how we're gonna get to the max income. So here's the game plan. First, we need to enter the golden era as fast as we can. That's exactly why I've been taking full states and concentrating to complete the age objectives as fast as I can. You should dev to Moscow to 30 if you still haven't reached it yet. Improve 4 trade centers and take a province somewhere in Asia. Keep in mind that Uzbek and parts of Nogay are counted as Asia, so you can complete the present on 2 continents objective quite easily. The 10% of all power costs from the golden era for deving and the 10% goods reduced is really important here. Next, you have to expand into the right areas. Follow your trade nodes and try to expand east or south and not much into the west. Persia, Samarkand and Siberia are way more useful to us compared to the Baltic, for example. Next, we also have to invest in our lands. You should be selling crown lands every time you can and build buildings. Manufacturers are your best friend here. They're just like oil and gas, but better. Build them whenever you can. This is how you should prioritize them. Build in Kazan, Novgorod and Astrakhan trade nodes in that exact order. Everything else comes after that, and never build them in the White Sea and Baltic, as their trade potential will be totally waste. Always make sure to have the Orthodox icon and the decision from the estates for construction cost. Next, we have to develop our provinces. If you're developing with admin mana, prioritize the cheapest provinces, preferably with cheap trade goods. If you're dealing with deep mana, prioritize expensive like copper, iron, salt, and textiles, even if it's a bit more expensive. You should also follow the exact same order as for manufacturers, so build in Astrakhan, Kazan, and Novgorod trade nodes. But keep in mind that prosperity gives extra dev cost, so try to get it everywhere for max efficiency. Just like with buildings, make sure to have an icon, the edict, loyal merchants, and prosperity. If not all modifiers are present, save your points until you stack as many of them as you can, or hit the points cap, whichever comes first. All of this is pretty obvious and won't be enough to get to our goal of 100 plus income, but this last step will allow us to supercharge our income, so watch out for that. For now, try to repeat steps 2, 3 and 4 as much as you can and as efficiently as possible. Somewhere around this time, you might get the Muscovite Civil War and a 215 ruler. It's an unpleasant stability hit and not the best ruler, but still pretty easy to handle. You will have to deal with some pretender rebels, but 2.5 years after you get Shemyaka as your ruler. Be prepared for that. I also didn't take advisor costs from the estate, as you'll have to raise stability again, but you should take it after you are done with this. After finishing the 3 opening wars, everything else should be pretty simple. Clean up the small Russian principalities and try to conserve some admin points. We'll need a lot later. Try to expand down south towards Persia as much as you can. Here, I had a tough war against Shirvan with AQ and Ajam backing it. I tried to be greedy at first and didn't raise enough mercenaries, which ended up costing me a lot. I almost considered restarting, but this was my 6th attempt already, and I didn't want to give up so easily. I took a break and watched Habibi's World Conquest Challenge. It just came out.
On their island?
Yes, that's how long I've been postponing this video. Anyway, the extra motivation got me through the war, and it ended up quite okay. Learn from that and don't hesitate to raise some mercs. Once you hit Tech 5 on admin, it's time to choose the idea group. Personally, I've decided that going with infrastructure and aristocratic, maxing the dev cost and construction cost would be the best. I actually ended up finishing the entire second idea group too, which I didn't expect. There's definitely an option of going with a trade for the goods produced policy. I'm not really sure what would be better, so just think about it and choose whatever you prefer. Anyways, ideally, you should be attacking anyone you don't have a truce with and decreasing autonomies wherever and whenever you can. You will be sitting at 5% crown land most of the game, so autonomies can really pile up, so pay attention to that. Other than that, it's mostly a regular gameplay of conquest, pouring and stating, converting and building up whenever you can. Here are a few tips on how I did everything. Half state everything you can if you have some extra governing capacity. Build a fort and a townhouse in the gold mine. Make sure that there's prosperity and no autonomy. Always try to have at least one decently big ally to exploit them for free money and manpower every 5 years. I managed to get Austria here, which is nice and help with the war with Poland, but really, anyone will do. Release Kazakh as a vassal. They have pretty nice cores all around. I also randomly got Ryazan as a PU, which is fine. I don't really care about it. Try to get radical reforms with inflation and trade guide. Really nice for this run. Try to have level 3 advisors for stability events to save admin mana. If you are also maxing your income, don't forget to get trade and tax or production guy at the end. I also released Latgalia, as I really didn't want to spend admin on coring the Baltic provinces. Try to minimize losing diplo points from separate piecing or unjustified demands, and never release countries. We need every single diplo point. Do not full core states of South Karelia, Astrakhan, Kiev, Arkhangelsk and Kazan. This will be important for our step 5. Now for the final part, declare a war on Denmark and don't drag it out too much. We are not aiming for 100% war score here, and just need to take a couple of provinces in Finland. We didn't bother to cut off Denmark from Novgorod, as we needed to have a war with them anyways. Some of you might already know this, but Finland is considered as a Western Europe, meaning that we can move our capital there and trade companies the entire Eastern Europe region. That's exactly why we left Astrakhan and other states half-stated. Trade company zones, build trade buildings there, company investments for trade value and trade power. You should get at least 2 to 3 extra merchants, and even if not, it gives a really nice bonus to goods produced in the trade area. Drive all the trade to Novgorod and collect there for extra trade efficiency. Here is my trade setup. This simple step cost us 300 admin and 200 dip, but it's easily worth it. We have 30% more income now, and will scale even more the more we expand. So there we have it, 135 income by 1500. Pretty decent, even with a rocky start and not the best ruler. Definitely possible to have more with the earlier golden era, more aggressive expansion. I just got a bit lazy at the end. Perhaps even going as far as Lahore in India or Beijing in China. Both are possible really. I'm just choosing the easier approach with deving. It will allow us to supercharge our income. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.